Okay. You ever have those days where you just feel kind of blah, like you catch your reflection and it's just not doing it for you? Your favorite jeans feel a little too snug, and suddenly, bam, your inner critic is throwing shade left and right.
Yeah. It's really common to feel that way about our bodies. It's something most of us struggle with at some point in our lives.
Totally. It's like no matter what I do, there's always something I want to change about how I look. My brain just defaults to self-critique mode.
That's where something like cognitive behavioral therapy can help CBT, for short. And it's not about magically changing your body, it's more about kind of like rewiring your relationship with it. Almost like you're updating some outdated software, those negative thoughts. Yeah, we're going to change the code.
Okay, now that's a metaphor I can get behind,
Yeah.
but how do we actually do that? These negative body image thoughts, they feel so ingrained, like second nature.
You're right. Those patterns often run on autopilot. First step's just noticing them. So, like, the next time you catch yourself spiraling with self-criticism, try to pinpoint what set it off. Was it a magazine, a social media post, maybe just a glimpse in the mirror?
Oh, fitting room mirrors, 100%.
Yeah,
The lighting, the whole experience, recipe for
I
disaster.
hear that. So, say you try on jeans and they don't fit how you'd hoped. That thought pops up, ugh, nothing looks good on me. Then what happened?
Oh, the floodgates open. Suddenly, my whole wardrobe is questionable, and I'm like, why did I even bother coming shopping? It's like that one thought snowballs into this huge avalanche of self-doubt.
And that's exactly what CBT helps us avoid getting swept away. We hit the brakes because, remember, thoughts, they aren't facts.
Okay, love the idea of hitting the brakes on the negative chatter, but how do we actually do that?
Think of it like being a thought detective. We got to examine that initial thought, nothing looks good on me. Is that even true, or is it a distortion?
A distortion, what do you mean by that?
Our minds, they're pros at distortion, especially when it comes to body image. We fall into these thinking traps, and one of them is that everything statement. It's probably all or nothing thinking, seeing things in extremes instead of on a spectrum.
Oh, wow, yeah. My brain totally forgets there's a whole lot of gray area between looking amazing and looking awful.
Hmm.
Are there other, like, distortion types to watch out for?
Oh, tons. Catastrophizing is a big one. We take something small, like those jeans fitting a little off, and suddenly it's the end of the world.
Oh my gosh, that's me. Suddenly I'm picturing getting voted off some imaginary reality show for, like, worst fashion sense ever.
Mhm.
Ridiculous, right?
But so relatable. Our brains, they latch onto potential threats. And sometimes it's like that tendency goes into overdrive. CBT helps us recognize these patterns, the catastrophizing, the all or nothing thinking, and then we can start to be like, hold on, is this even true?
Right. Like, once you see the pattern, it's hard to unsee it.
Mm.
So what happens once we've, labeled those thought distortions? What's the next step in our CBT makeover?
Well, once you're better at spotting those thought traps, it's way easier to challenge them. Remember, a thought isn't automatically true just because you're thinking it. So ask yourself, what's the evidence here? Like, seriously, what's backing this up?
Okay, so in the jeans scenario, instead of assuming I look awful, I could be like, all right, evidence. What evidence? Well, these jeans aren't great, but that dress I wore yesterday nailed it. Look at me, gathering evidence already.
Exactly. And maybe you realize the jeans are a tad snug because, hey, you've been enjoying some amazing dinners lately. Doesn't mean your body's wrong.
That is way more compassionate.
And that's the goal, bringing in that self-compassion. Another powerful CBT tool for body image is shifting our focus outward. Instead of always scrutinizing how we look, we can try engaging more with, like, the world around us, really being present.
I get that. It's like when I'm stuck in my head, the world gets really small, focused on me and every little perceived flaw.
Exactly. Think about when you're doing something you love. Maybe it's being with people you care about, hiking, creating something. In those moments, how much mental space is taken up by body image stuff?
Honestly, not much at all. When I'm truly engaged in something, my focus is all on the experience, not how I look while I'm doing it.
Exactly. And that's the power of directing our attention outward. It's not about ignoring how we feel. It's more like consciously choosing to focus on things that feel good, that nourish us, instead of feeding that negative self-image loop.
I love that, focusing on what lights us up. It's like they say energy flows where attention goes.
Yeah.
But what about when you can't just shift your focus? Like those times when your body image worries are just like right there.
You're right. Those anxieties can pop up even when we're trying our best to use CBT. That's where another important part comes in. We got to face our fears instead of avoiding them.
Okay, that sounds kind of scary. How do we even start facing those fears in a way that feels, safe and doable?
It's all about small steps. And a good starting point is figuring out those safety behaviors we use to cope with body image worries. They're things we do to avoid triggering those bad feelings, but they can actually keep us stuck in the long run.
Oh, I definitely have some safety behaviors. What are some examples? Like, what kind of things are we talking about?
It could be anything. Wearing baggy clothes to hide your body, always checking your reflection, maybe even dodging social events altogether.
The social events one, that's me. I can't even tell you how many times I've skipped a hangout because I was feeling insecure about how I looked.
It's really common, but it shows how those safety behaviors, they might seem helpful in the moment, but they can stop us from having fun, from connecting with people. The key is to kind of chip away at them, starting small.
So instead of skipping the whole party, maybe try going for just a little bit.
Exactly. Or maybe you challenge yourself to wear an outfit you feel good in, even if it's a little outside your comfort zone. The goal is to push those boundaries a bit, and you'll probably find those feared consequences. They don't usually happen.
That's such a good point. It's like we can take back those experiences that before anxiety was stealing from us.
Exactly. Every time you face a fear and see that you can handle it, your confidence grows. It's like building a muscle, that muscle of self acceptance.
Ooh, I like that. And speaking of self-acceptance, this whole conversation has made me realize how important self-love is, no matter what size you wear or how you look in a selfie.
Absolutely. True self acceptance, it goes way beyond body image. It's about embracing all of yourself, even the messy parts. And it's a journey, not a finish line. There will be ups and downs, but CBT can help us handle all of it with a lot more kindness towards ourselves.
This has been so helpful. I feel like I have some actual tools to use now. Any last bits of wisdom for our listeners who are on their own journey with body image?
You're not alone in this. That's the biggest thing. Be kind to yourself, celebrate what makes you you, and remember you are worthy, way beyond what you see in the mirror.
So well said. It's been awesome diving into this with you. And to our listeners, keep exploring those CBT techniques. You're worthy exactly as you are. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.